Welcome back to The Score, the series with expectations so high that I needed 5 months to reach them. This time, we have more Pokemon news, some Marvel hype to cash in on, and a discussion about strong female roles in media. So, let's get to the other side of the intro so that we can settle the score. Let's start this all off by riding the hype train, because Marvel Studios released a new trailer for the upcoming Captain America Civil War movie, and all I can say is amazing. Get it? Because it has Spider-Man in it. Finally! I don't even have a joke here, I just wanted an excuse to talk about it, because I might be slightly hyped for it, in case you couldn't guess. It doesn't ease the pain of losing the third movie with Andrew Garfield, though. I miss you, Andrew. Call me? We can make a fan sequel. I'll play the Vulture. Anyway, Spider-Man love aside, there has also been a lot of Nintendo hype lately. From all the rumors about the NX system, the rumors about Pokemon Go, the rumors about Zelda U. Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see there's no real news here, just the internet doing what it does best. This is awkward. There is real Pokemon news though, and no weird butt stuff this time. The next generation of Pokemon, called Sun and Moon, has officially been announced, and while there's no footage for the games or the new creatures yet, it hasn't stopped the aforementioned rumor mill from going crazy with speculation from the screen grabs of Pokemon combined with vehicles that are assumed to be drivable, and the wireframe of a mysterious bird Pokemon that's apparently a big deal. Seriously, people, every generation has bird and rodent Pokemon. That's basically like confirming that the game will have gym leaders. It is still exciting, however, since I, for one, was relatively disappointed in X and Y. There were some good new Pokemon, but the world felt boring and sterile, and this new region looks to be very tropical, and that sounds really fun. Unless it means we'll have to deal with 30 new water Pokemon, because that's another thing we have way too much of. One thing we could definitely use more of, however, is strong female roles in media. And one of the best of this past year was Daisy Ridley as Rey in a little-known movie called Star Wars Episode 7. Well, now it seems like she is in talks to take on another strong female character in the Tomb Raider movie reboot, based more closely on the reboot games with a younger, slimmer Lara Croft dealing with more realistic, gritty situations. I know I usually use this platform to make fun of things, but I honestly couldn't be more excited about this decision. While Angelina Jolie mostly played the original Tomb Raider movies as campy, sexy action movies, Daisy could play the role as yet another strong female role model for the next generation of young, impressionable girls. Let's just hope the studio doesn't screw it up, because we all know the history of video game movie adaptations has panned out. And there it is, now the sarcasm is back, just in time for our next topic. Rumor has it that Seth Rogen is working on a movie based on Where's Waldo? It seems like it'll be a while until it comes out though, as he has yet to find a producer, director, or Waldo himself. I'm sorry for that joke, but it did kind of write itself. I couldn't resist. And finally, in a move that probably surprised some, Fable Legends has officially been cancelled, and the studio developing it and the rest of the franchise, Lionhead Studios, is unsure of its own future. So, it seems that for all of us that loved those games in the past, they might soon just live on through our own stories. In other words, you could say that soon, Lionhead Studios will just be a series of fables. This was not only a terrible joke, but a stupid idea, cause now I can't read the teleprompter. 1 second. So, with my terrible jokes out of the way, it's time for the real meat of this video, and that goes back to our discussion of strong female figures in the media, such as the aforementioned Daisy Ridley. And joining me for this discussion is a genetic expert on the subject. A woman. Let's slip into a more comfortable atmosphere and welcome our first guest to the score, Serendipitia.
Hello, Tia.
Hi.
Thank you for being my first guest on this. It's very exciting.
I know, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for letting me come on to the score.
Yeah. And as my first guest, and also a female, I wanted to get your opinions on the current state of women in media, like movies, TVs, gaming, all of that stuff.
To be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed about the portrayal of women in media and the gaming industry and all sorts. I personally think that we've been kind of portrayed as to be like this kind of damsel in distress, so to speak, or a love interest, and not necessarily like if you look at the games or like a lot of films, there's not really a lot of like female main characters where they're really taken seriously, you know, as like a really strong female character that can kind of like hold her own and kind of fight for what she believes in. They're not really taken seriously. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of big companies and big like game developers think that it may be a bit too risky to do that because it's not the norm, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I would agree with part of that. I would agree that people are afraid to take those risks and, you know, create those characters. But I wouldn't say that they don't exist because at least currently, as far as what I can think of, there's actually a lot of really good examples. I just don't think society really cares about them or that, you know, they take those characters seriously. I think it's more the public opinion that's turning those things the way that you're saying they are, rather than the actual, like, images and characters themselves. Like, if you look at, you know, I mentioned, Star Wars with Daisy Ridley. If you look at that movie's two leads are a woman and a black guy. And, like, it blew up in, you know, popular culture and everything. Like, how can you have that? Like, you know, everyone thought that Poe was the star, cause he's this, you know, cool white guy and everything. Like, he's their Han Solo, and he's not even in the movie that much, spoiler. If you haven't seen Star Wars by now, let's be honest, you're not going to.
Yeah.
Then there's, like, Agent Carter on TV. You know, Haley Atwell is this amazing, like female rights activist and everything, and she's just a fantastic character, and she plays this character that doesn't need anyone else, and half the time saves the male characters on the show, and she's awesome, and that show is about to be canceled.
Oh, really? Oh, gosh.
I mean, it could get picked up, I would very much see it, but it hasn't been doing well. And that's kind of the point, is like these shows, these movies, these games, like they don't get the publicity they need. Even look at Metroid, like it's a series that is huge and, you know, has been around for, I think they just celebrated 30 years actually.
Wow.
With like nothing really to say about it. There's that Metroid Prime Federation Force crap game coming out and it doesn't even star Samus. Like Samus is like my female role model growing up. Like, you know, she was this character that you didn't even know was a woman at first. Like, you played through the game and then you find out, oh, she's a woman. Cool. Doesn't affect the game at all. Like, it doesn't matter that she's a woman. I think that's what needs to happen. These characters that are just good characters, regardless of whether or not they're a woman. I would say the same, you actually got me into this. I would say the same about Chloe in Life is Strange.
Yeah, she's such a strong kind of, I don't know, like, she's actually, like, come to think of it, because you associate Life is Strange with Max Caulfield, if you've not seen the game, it's basically around this kind of teenage girl, but her kind of, the side protagonist, Chloe, who, she has, like, such an amazing kind of personality and this kind of raw energy, and more people gravitate towards her rather than Max. And it's because, like, she's kind of, like, this tomboyish kind of character, which, to be honest, nowadays that's more common than having, you know, these kind of, like, girly girls, which is more socially acceptable. And I think that's why a lot of people love her, really. Because she's just kind of like this badass punk rocker kind of girl with a load of tattoos who doesn't really care about what people think. And she's just totally badass. But, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. There are a lot more kind of, like, stronger female roles nowadays as opposed to, like, before, where it was literally, like, I don't know, like, say, for Super Mario, for instance, it was all about saving the princess, and, like, it was always girls needing to be, like, saved and stuff like that. Another example is, like, the Call of Duty series, you know, Black Ops 3, which was released in November, I want to say, last year. They've only just introduced female soldiers into that game. That series has been going on for ages, and they've only just done that. I will let that series off because it's kind of like a reflection upon, like, the military, and there are more men in the military than women, so I guess I can kind of let that off. But still, like, no, I agree with what you're saying. It's kind of like being phased out a little bit more. Like, there is a lot more gender diversity in, like, games and media and stuff now, and it's becoming a lot more socially acceptable, which I really, really like. But I do think we've still got a long way to go.
Yeah, like, I think what's so funny about that is that a lot of these female roles are still stereotyped. Like, you look at games like you said, Call of Duty, that are just now getting female characters in there, even though females have been playing those games forever. And then there's games like Final Fantasy and things like that. You know, those kind of stereotypical, like, genderless games, like RPGs, with very strong female role models that tend to cater to those women.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're separating out the gaming experiences between the genders when, you know, just as many men play Final Fantasy as women, and just as many women play Call of Duty as men. And it's kind of weird. Because who are these people to say who plays these games? They should give the options regardless.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you're playing a game, what would you feel more comfortable playing as, a male character or female, or doesn't it particularly bother you?
It doesn't really matter. It kind of depends on the experience. A lot of times, like, you know, I've joked before that in big RPG, like, open world type games, I'll create a woman because I'd rather look at that for, 30 plus hours than a man.
Each to their own, I guess. Yeah.
But also, like, it's kind of nice to create yourself, like that idea that you're playing inside the game, like in Fallout and stuff like that. So I don't think it matters. Like, you create what you want to see, really.
Yeah.
But I think there is a kind of a stigma out there of, like, men creating women and women creating men. But who cares? I wouldn't say that's really an issue.
Yeah.
If you're meaning as far as characters, like, that are starring in the game, like, you don't have a choice over it, then that doesn't matter. It's just the game itself. Like, I'll play Tomb Raider just as much as I'll play, Zelda. Well, that's not a good example because I'll play Zelda over anything. But, those characters there, like, that doesn't affect me. If I like the game, I'll play it. Who cares who the lead is? If it's a strong female, even better.
Speaking of, Tomb Raider, like, have you seen the development of, the character Lara Croft from, when the game first started? I don't mean graphics-wise, but more so kind of, like, the outfit she wears and, how her boobs are, like, majorly, like, huge anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's not over kind of sexualized anymore. She's more so, like, with the more recent games, she's wearing, like, this like ripped pants, and she's got, like, survivalist gear on and stuff like that, thrown into kind of a real situation, as opposed to these kind of skimpy little kind of shorts and a vest. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I would actually say that Tomb Raider is one of the main series that kind of shows the growth of like, women and media, because you've got, Lara Croft, who started in the first Tomb Raider and was, like, the epitome of, like, female sexuality, and, men loved it. Like, that was kind of the main thing. And so they kept going bigger with that, like, literally bigger.
Yeah, Jesus.
And the games got worse because it was just focusing on the sexuality aspect rather than making a good game. And so when they started over, they're like, you know what, let's make a game first and have the character be an extension of that. And they've been doing really well. And, like, even, I mentioned this before, but even if you look at the movies, they created a Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah,
and, like, yeah, she's a good actress and all, but her leading roles have mostly been because she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest, even her better acted roles, they still play up her sexuality. And now it looks like they're making a new movie, or, thinking about making a new movie based on these new games, and casting, Daisy Ridley, who's always been very conservative and, like, focused on her characters, not her body. And that's kind of awesome that they could, basically do an entire 180 on this reboot and realize, oh, it wasn't the sexuality that worked. It was the franchise. And movies also, if you look at last year, Jurassic World.
Yes. Yeah.
That was one of the big releases, and everyone thought that Chris Pratt was the lead. He really wasn't.
I've never
He spent half the
actually
movie in
watched that,
trouble.
But there's a young female red-haired actress, I want to believe, in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard.
Right.
Who really steals the movie. And she does it without, like, you know, demeaning herself or anything. She stays strong, she stays powerful. I don't want to spoil the movie too much since you haven't seen it, but, you know, there are a few moments of, like, damsel in distress, but that works both ways. Like, they're both in distress sometimes, and they both save each other. Like, it's very equal in that aspect. And she's another example of those strong characters that have been created lately, but kind of swept under the rug. Same with, like, Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, there's been a lot of these strong characters that just don't get the marketing.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is kind of funny about the new Ghostbusters movie, because I'm not excited about that movie. It looks not great. But everyone's saying like, oh, they can't screw up the marketing, you know, they can't put out just all the male characters into the toys because it's all females. And so it's like, who would have thought that, you know, like if you think 20 years ago or however long ago the original Ghostbusters was, that there would be a new Ghostbusters movie with an entirely female cast.
I know.
Like, sure, it doesn't look good, but it's still a step.
Oh, jeez. The thing that annoyed me, I would say, growing up as a female gamer, the only kind of games that were, this is going off topic by the way, but it's fine. The only games that were available to me as a, I'm going to put this in air quotes, girl gamer, were like, you know, these kind of like Barbie dress up games and Bratz and stuff like that. There was never really a game that, you know, spoke to girls on a kind of serious level about serious situations. It was all this kind of, you know, pretty pink dress up, makeup, things like that, and that was kind of forced upon you if you liked games at a younger age. And that's something that really annoyed me a lot when I was growing up, because I would often go to my brothers and say, hey, what are you playing? And start playing what they were playing, as opposed to the stuff that my mum was getting me, like, oh, here you go, dear, you'll like this. The first proper game that I picked up for a console was Final Fantasy IX, and in that you've got this kind of like stereotypical princess that needs kind of rescuing, but it turns out that she was actually trying to rescue herself, and she was just trying to find a place in the world, and there was a real kind of stepping stone like mark in that game where it was quite an iconic scene really, and it was basically the mark of when she became the Queen of Alexandria, and where she kind of really came into her own as a woman. She's got very long flowing kind of black hair, and there was a scene where she cuts her hair off and she has this shoulder length hair where she's just kind of, she looks quite kind of like boyish, but thereafter, you know, you unlock these like moves for her, like different eidolons, and she's seen as a proper character that can really fend for herself. And I thought it was interesting that she had to lose that kind of feminine appearance to be like that. And that was the first kind of character that I really kind of admired, because it was like she started off as this person who was like really in need of like everybody's help, and then she really came into her own. And I would say that's probably like the most iconic moment in a game for me, for, you know, like a female character, I would say.
That's actually interesting. The one thing you said that was, she had to lose her female appearance in order to be a real character.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. I mean, I get what you're saying with it, but it does kind of make me think, like, do you think that there's an overabundance of characters that basically have to sacrifice their femininity, that's a hard word, in order to be taken seriously?
I can't really think of any other examples, really, but in a lot of occasions, yeah, I do. I mean, if you're, I don't know, who can I have think about here? If there's a character, you know, that's prancing around in this kind of like skimpy clothing trying to be taken seriously, they're not. They're just not going to be taken seriously, as opposed to, say, because we're on the topic of Final Fantasy, Lightning from Final Fantasy 13, who is like one of the most influential, iconic female characters that Square Enix has ever made. She has this kind of soldier uniform, you know, little skimpy, very, you know, short skirt, but she's still in a soldier uniform nevertheless.
Yeah, and I get that to an extent from, like, Tifa in Final Fantasy VII. Because, she's
Oh,
actually
yeah,
is a
sorry,
fairly
yeah.
strong character that stands on her own.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have just turned her into some, sex symbol because of what she wears.
Right.
But alternatively, you said that, you can't run around with like just nothing on and be taken seriously. But that's not necessarily what the female presence is entirely. Like going back to Agent Carter, she always has very nice, like sleek, 40s clothing for a woman. Like kind of business
She's
dress.
like quite smartly dressed. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
She looks good. Like she, wears things that fit her and make her feel like a woman. But she'll also kick your butt in a dress with heels. So like, I don't necessarily think you do have to sacrifice that. But, looking at examples like Chloe again, it does happen a lot. Like those kind of non-traditional female characters tend to be the ones that stand out. Rather than like, Max is tomboyish, yes, but she definitely fills that more feminine role.
She has a more softer character,
Yeah.
for sure.
And she gets forgotten a little bit. And I think that's partially just because of her character being essentially the voice of the decisions you make, rather than a fully fleshed out character herself.
Yeah, for sure.
But she still gets sacrificed in lieu of Chloe, who's the more, edgy, like, non-traditional character. So, I would honestly love to see more of the strong female characters that don't feel the need to play with the boys. That are their own characters while still being feminine.
Yeah.
'Cause there's something to be said for being your own character and, not feeling the need to fit any kind of, stereotypical female role. But why does that mean you have to look like a boy? Because again, that's kind of why I like Samus, because when you first see her, is like when you beat the game, in the original Metroid, and she's just like wearing her like Zero Suit bikini type thing, or in Super Metroid when you die and she like breaks out of her suit, and again, she's got a bikini thing on. And then there's the proper reveal of her in like Metroid Zero Mission, where she's got like the blue kind of sleek Zero Suit Samus, suit. But like, it makes sense from the standpoint of someone that is, very, very acrobatic, moving around, things like that. But she's got, the ponytail, the long hair, like, she still looks very, very womanly, just in an acrobatic, like skin suit. I don't really know how to explain it. But I've tried to look up like art and things like that of her for different projects. And it's all like Rule 34 type stuff. And it's really upsetting. Cause you can't have someone that just looks feminine and like, like good without there being a sexual aspect. And I think that's what we need to get away from. Less so about making the women less sexual and more about turning them less sexual. Like, letting them be women, but not sexualizing that so much.
Yeah, I think you do have an interesting point there, but like, I think following on from what we were talking about before and what you said, I feel like the only way that there is going to be a real kind of change in the gaming industry in particular is that there be more women involved in games, like game developers and stuff like that hire more women, because I've wrote down here basically like women only make up 22% of the game industry now. And I was just kind of like having a little bit of a research and stuff like this. And I found out that I think it was last month in Las Vegas, the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences actually teamed up with Intel last month. And they basically launched this new initiative called Women In. And basically what it is it's a group that promotes gender diversity in the gaming industry to give like women, opportunities to, apply for such jobs in the gaming industry, provide like scholarships, internships, career advice, stuff like that. So I feel like the only real way that we can make a big step forward is to have more women involved.
In developing these games in the first place.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that, I don't think I could say that better myself, actually. And that does lead into our question for this episode about what do you think some changes for the future of the gaming industry media industry in general to better represent women would be needed. So if you all want to continue the discussion below in the comments or tweet at the score. Let me know your thoughts, and I will put that in the next episode. Real quick, I know I didn't do that this time because it's been so long, but I promise from now on we will continue the discussion forward. But that is the end of this. Thank you for joining me, Tia. Do you have any final words?
Thank you. No, just thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. It's been really, really fun, actually, yeah.
And thank you for joining me. And thank you all for watching. And until next time, have fun.
Have fun.